You can both sit up or chill, lie down, just turn around, give me your attention. So what we've done is predominantly focus on the health of your hips. Because what happens if your hips are healthy? Yeah, which does what? Two things. Let's talk about what's the outcome. What are the outcomes of having healthy hips?
Good posture.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. So injury reduced. We're wanting to reduce your injuries, and we want you to enhance your performance. Run faster. Pretty important. So we've done how many things to deal with your hip health today? What do we do first of all? We did the stretch. It was a partner stretch ability. We did stretch. Yeah? Then we did rolling. What was stretch doing? What was it dealing with? Length, tension, or stability? What was stretching doing? Length, tension, or stability? Multi choice question. Stretching changes my length, tension, or stability? Length. And secondly, tension. It does get you tension, but the primary is length. What does rolling do? Length, tension, or stability? Tension. Almost exclusively tension, no length. Well, mild effect, but stretching has more effect on tension than rolling has on length. Third thing we did was? Yeah, joint stability. Using one exercise, the most important one, which we call thin tummy, which involves you creating a dish, switching on. So I only did three things. Now, on a scale out of 1 to 10, how were you overall? 10 being amazing, 1 being really shitty. What do you reckon you're at?
6.
Okay, and within each of those three, the length, tension, stability, so within stretching, what would you give yourself? Within rolling, what would you give yourself? And within the abdominal exercise, what would you give yourself? I'll give you an example. Across the group in the abdominal exercises, what would you give yourself out of 10? Because I'm going to give you a number, so you give yourself a number first. Come on, give me a number.
6.
Geez, you're generous. And I want to snap my fingers when I touch that abdominal. You weren't snapping my fingers.
1.
It's like finding the Loch Ness Monster there for a while. 1, that's more accurate. I reckon 1. Most in this group between 0 and 2, full stop. Rolling, give me a number. 1 and 3. Yeah, 1 and 3. Stretching? Yeah, so all in the similar ballpark. Do you think you got some work to do?
Yes.
Do you have to do it? No?
Yeah.
No. Life's full of choice, isn't it? Why would you do it? Because you cared. If you don't care, you don't do it. That's cool. It's your call. Any question for me on anything about your preparation for baseball? Or training in any regard?
All the throwing we do forwards, is there any stretching you can do to go backwards?
Yep. Well, what muscles are you using?
Shoulder. A lot of shoulder.
Well, you're hurting in the shoulder, but what muscle is actually throwing you forward? You're not the only sport that has this issue. Tennis, sensational. Keep going.
Cricket.
Cricket,
Volleyball.
not as much.
Some parts of football.
Yeah, well, quarterback, the thrower, yeah. Not as much. Repetitive,
Rugby.
horizontal throwing. Baseball, softball, cricket, and swimming. You ever seen a swimmer's shoulders? Like, well, yeah. So this is what sport does to you. Sport shortens your muscles. And sometimes causes pain even on the other side. But how do you correct shortened muscles?
Stretch.
Throwing a baseball is one of the toughest things to reverse. It's up there with serving in tennis. Has anyone seen Raonic? He's a Canadian citizen, but he's not born in Canada. Has anyone seen Raonic? Have a look at his shoulders. They are stuffed. He's got this monstrous serve. He's like 6'6". He's got this monstrous serve. He relies on his serve. His career will be ended by his shoulder. That's how bad it is. Baseball and serving, I'm scared for you, because unless you're really good at you'll rehab, you will join everyone else having surgery. Now, if the joint here affects everything here. This affects everything here. So what are some of the common surgeries in baseball? Oh, the Tommy Johns. Now, 30 years ago, would we have this conversation? Nope. How many years ago did you start hearing about it? I know you're young, but like really, it's post-2000, roundabout, and it's become really popular. It's like everybody's got to have one. Hey, you play baseball, where's your Tommy Johns? It's crap. You don't have to have one. But if you don't look after your body, you're going to have it. Because they can. So yeah, you've got to, if you're a pitcher, or if you throw a lot, you know, if you're a baseman that throws a lot, a fielder throws a lot, you need to know how to reverse the damage that throwing does to your body. And it's not always what people will tell you it is. You know what I'm saying? In the training methods, the most optimal ones aren't always what everyone else is doing. Good question. Because no matter how good a condition you're in, the risk is always highest in the thing that you do the most of. So if you're a catcher, you'd be looking at your knees. If you're a fielder, you know, it depends where you are, but throwing is involved, so it's your shoulder. Great question. Got time for one more if there was one more?
Is there any stretches we can do for it?
You know what I like about this bloke? You know, opportunities on the table, he's just taking it off you. He's just taking it away from you. This is good. Because life doesn't provide equal. Unless you believe in communism or socialism, and it doesn't really work anyway, but that aside, he's just taken it up. Some of you sitting there like stunned mullets, this is good, go ahead. What's the question?
Is there any more stretch? What stretch could we do to like work on that?
The shoulder?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So the most important one is what I call the 3 or 4 way shoulder stretch on the wall. Bang, 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 bang. Rotate, rotate, rotate. Come back in, next position. Rotate, rotate your body, come back in. If you're not spending, as a thrower, I'm going to guess about an hour a week stretching that shoulder and the lat, like 1 to 2 hours a week. If you're not doing 1 to 2 hours a week of just shoulder stretching, you're not going to win the battle. So you have to be pretty dedicated to do that, wouldn't you? Most of, if you stretch your shoulders, it'll be over in about 30 seconds. So yeah, you need to change your approach to the chest stretch and the lat stretch, which I haven't gone through, but very important. Two great questions. Mate, you're amazing, you know. You might not be the tallest bloke here, but you're grabbing your piece of the real estate, because you're the second bloke to ask a question, so you deserve to be acknowledged for that.
So how would you prevent an injury like right around here?
Excellent, excellent. Most of the injuries that happen distal or downwards from a major joint are caused by the major joint. So the condition of your shoulder will be the main thing that dictates what's happening there. Sounds a bit weird, doesn't it? So if you stretch your chest and your biceps and your triceps that go over your shoulder, that's have the bigger impact on the elbow than any direct elbow stretching itself. Make sense? Because quite often the elbow joint takes a load for an inefficient shoulder, a shoulder that's not functioning too well. Now the loading surface in the shoulder is very small. It's a lot of force that goes through that little area there, and it just can't take it. So if your shoulder isn't optimally healthy, you haven't got a hope. So the same thing, combined with shoulder stretching, 3-way, up and over, across, and up and behind. 3-way shoulder. I told you 4-way chest, and 2-way lat, 2 arm, 1 arm, 1 arm, and I'm telling you 3-way shoulder combined with 3-way forearm. So if you stretch your lats, your chest, your shoulder, and your forearms, and you do 3 hours of that a week, sweet. If you do more than you're used to doing, you'll be better off than you were. If you ignore them, you're stuffed. You cannot be a throwing sport athlete or a implement, like a racket implement sport athlete, and not sort your forearms out. Because your forearms are doing everything. They're gripping everything. Even just going to the gym will tighten your forearms up in a way that if you're not stretching, you'll pay the price ultimately. You know, most people who go to the gym have the pain that you're talking about. Imagine if you then added throwing on that. One of the main reasons baseball injuries have gone through the roof is because they're doing strength training. If they didn't do strength training, the injuries would halve straight away. But there's this misguided perception that you've got to look buffed to be a baseball player. You've got to go on the Barnes supplement program. You know what I'm saying? They've lost the plot. The bat's not that heavy, and the ball velocity is not that correlated to your bench press. It's more technical. Most of your gym work should be aimed at injury prevention, not performance enhancement. So you should be doing the opposite movement in the gym, but stretching the working muscles.
Besides stretching, is there like any exercises we could do?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what happens in baseball is they wait till they're injured, then they start giving these magical exercises to fix them. So there's been a bit of history in the baseball, for example. It's one of the few sports that's had a crack at it, haven't done it well. And what do they call it? The Y, you know, is it the YTA? Yeah. So it's one of the sports that's made an attempt, but they don't understand it, they don't do it well. But if you can really focus on what I call flutters, scarecrows and external rotations, external dumbbell rotations, if you can master those 3 control drills, they are 3 million times more important than your bench press. Because if they control the scapula, see, the shoulder joint is actually a free-floating joint. Your scapula, which controls how your control of your upper arm, isn't really attached to anything. It's a free-floating muscle. So if you're not controlling the muscles around the scapula, it's flopping around, like we say in Australia, like a dunny house door in the wind. You know what a dunny house door is? It's an outhouse, like it's a crapper. What do you say in America? It's a little, it's a shed. It's a little shed that used to be in the paddock. You know, in the days before toilets and septic tanks, you know, you said dunny house door in the wind. Your shoulder blade's like that's flapping around. So you've got to have muscles to control it. Because when you move your arm, if you're not controlling it through the shoulder blade, you're stuffed. So there's 3 drills that I popularised and named 2 of them, 30 years ago. If you don't master them, you're gone. Some athletes, that's all I do with them in upper body strength training, at least initially. They just have to do a lot of that. And swimmers, tennis players and baseball players, they have to really be good at those control drills for upper body. Now, you are playing a sport that scares the crap out of me for the health of your shoulder. I do not know how it survives sometimes. You know what I'm saying? If you're at the pro level, I just do not know. It's scary stuff. That's how tough it is. So you have to be so immaculate with your rehab. And if you're a baseball player and you're making, quite a few million a year, you probably want to take it seriously. Like, really take it seriously. But unfortunately, most people just want to be like other people and will do their same shit, or they won't do it because that's what everyone else is doing. You with me? That's why there's not many people at the top end in sport, because you have to be different. You have to be willing to ask the question. You have to be willing to put yourself out there and do extra. I'm not saying extra for pain and because it's tough here, but the extra fine stuff that separates you. Have you ever watched tennis? Who's one of the greatest tennis players in the world? You got Federer, and let's move. Who's after that? Djokovic. Have you seen Djokovic move on a tennis court? Have you seen him in the full splits hitting the ball? That bloke would spend so many hours stretching. Now, he hangs from a chin bar. He does his stretch of chin bar like nobody would know. Like, he spends 10 to 20 hours a week stretching. And nobody knows this stuff. And people write in magazines, oh, this is how they train, and they bring kettlebells into the photo shoot and all this sort of shit. They don't do that stuff. Djokovic is number 1, number 2 in the world because he is the most flexible tennis player in the world. But who gets it? Who gets that? Djokovic. Do you see many tennis players being that flexible? No. Should see the Australians. They're useless. Kyrgios looks like a hunchback monster. Tomic has already had 3 hip surgeries. I think Kyrgios is having hip surgery now. He's number 19 or somewhere in the world. He's floating around there. He won't go any higher. This is how dumb sport is. Djokovic is out there showing you how to be the greatest tennis player in the world. Do you think Federer is doing something that no one else is doing? Absolutely. He's not doing what they're writing about in Sports Illustrated. They don't tell you what they're doing because they want to keep it a secret. So stop reading that crappy magazines and find out what's really going on. It's hard to find out, but you can find out what's really going on, then you've got a chance if you want to be the best in the world or up there, if you want to make a living out of your sport. Anyway, I've kept you long enough. We've had some great dialogue. Could be bedtime for you. So as much as I want to answer your questions, if you've got to ask them in a group, or you go home, that's your choice. So if you ask them outside the group, then others can't hear the answer. That's all I'm saying. So if you've got a question, I'm more than happy to go with it, but otherwise I'm going to send you home to bed and tuck you in. No, your mum can tuck you in. Sorry.
So I used to have an ITV problem with both my legs. Like I had one leg bad at first and the other one bad. Like right after I fixed my other one, my other one went bad. What would be like the best stretch to do that? Would that be like the first one we did?
Okay, well let's understand this. Is your ITV bad or you bad your ITV? No, more than probably. Nothing bad about your body. It's you haven't been looking after your body and the body's saying, hey, stop doing that to me. When the body hurts, it's just a message to say, stop hurting me. You don't listen to it, then you just blow up and tear apart. Pretty simple. So there's two types of pain. There's a nerve pain, which is a referred nerve pain, and there's a muscle pain. I don't know which one it is. So it's a referred pain it's the lower back, which is caused by tight hip flexors. Yeah, and most pain in the lower body is referred pain. It's not really pain. The only pain you really get is a bit of muscle soreness to do something you're not used to, and it happens about 2 days later, and then it goes away by 3 days later. You know? But if it's hanging around, and it's one-sided, not the other side, it's probably referred nerve pain. And because the nerves come out of the spine, it's probably something that's affecting the shape of the spine. And the biggest culprit is the hip flexors and the quads. Not all the time, but the biggest one. But as far as direct stretching of the ITB, it's one of the muscles that's harder to stretch. You have to be a bit more intelligent because it's the one that's hard to get into a position to stretch it. And it's a muscle that is not really a muscle. It's more of a sinew. It's more of a fibrous than it is a muscle. I'm not saying it's not a muscle, but it's a different one. So it's one you do have to do a bit more tension work on, rolling and massage, than other muscles. It's probably the one that needs the rolling more than anything else. And then when it comes to stretching, you've just got to get into angles where you can feel the stretch on the outside. And that usually involves twisting a leg or twisting your body to get in that position. But you've got to feel the stretch on the outside. So when I had you in the kneeling position, I had my hand up and over. If I twist my body a little bit, or if I push my pelvic tilt on at a 45 degree, I pick it up on the outside. So it's not the only one, that's one of the many. Great question. Number 4, you are the 4th boy to ask a question. That is impressive. I'm still impressed.
How do we exercise this thing when we put pressure on it?
Which thing is that?
Like when we did this thing.
Yeah. How do you exercise it and strengthen it?
Yeah.
The drill I gave you is the number 1 drill to start with. It wasn't just a show and tell activity, it was actually an exercise. Call it thin tummy. It's the most important abdominal exercise that all humans can do.
Is there any way to add weight or
Your postcode is an American. You've got a zip code, haven't you? You've got a zip code. That's what Americans call them. We call them postcode in Australia. Yeah. Let's sidebar on that one for a moment. There is a perception in America that more is better. It's a Texas kind of led mentality. You know, big hat, no cattle. Unfortunately, from my perspective, it's a misnomer, which is a fancy way of saying it's really just bullshit. Because exercise is about quality of movement, not quantity. Quality doesn't transfer to sport. Quality does. So when we're training our muscles, the most important thing, are we training our muscles in a way that will transfer to the sporting activity? So it doesn't matter how much you lift. If your recruitment pattern isn't transferring to sport, you are wasting your time. But it's more than wasting your time, you're actually damaging your body. Because as the load goes up in the gym, the risks go up, the wear and tear goes up. Imagine if it wasn't transferring. So Americans have got this real love affair. They've got a boner for load. And I got a real different attitude. I say loading's overrated, and the athletes I work with don't lift much. But we win. Because we're just smarter. You know what I'm saying? We just think about it a bit more. It's a really brain dead mentality, this attitude that, well, if you lift more, you must be a better athlete. If all the athletes in the world stopped doing strength training straight away, injuries would go down 50%, performance would go up 10% straight away. That's how bad strength training is, the way it's being done.
what about lifting with your
Fantastic. Who does that? Yeah, it's a good theory. It's doable, of course, but who does really? Have you ever see someone lifting with good form? No? Okay, so your definition and my definition of good form could be different as well, couldn't they? Because I'm really, really particular about form. Like, I am really particular about form. So you wouldn't even know where I'm going with when I say that. Like, we're just at a different level in technical expectation. Okay. Can Steph Curry shoot a three-pointer? Do you think he rehearsed his form a bit? I think he rehearsed his form in a fairly convertible way, well, put it this way: did he start shooting from the halfway line, converting at 0.1%, or did he start maybe a bit closer to the basket, or had a higher conversion rate, and then moved out? Yeah. So the height of your athletic career will, for the most part, be determined by the size of your technical foundations. If you are not raised with incredible technique, you're probably not going to make it to the top in sport. Does that make sense? And so some athletes just fortunately get a really good coach that just drills technique ahead of load or volume, and they tend to rise through more so. Now others get there for different reasons. But generally speaking, the most important thing you do in sport is your technical development. Unfortunately, the Americans have been led to believe, and leading the world to believe, that it's about how much you lift in the gym. Great questions. It's nearly time to go to bed, isn't it? I know there's one to my left. What was your question?
It was about like lower back. Like usually after I pitch, or usually after I pitch, like usually the next day, my lower back is sore and tight. Is that from my legs mostly, or is that?
Yep. So again, it's usually because you're not controlling the shape of your spine when you throw. So the pelvis is here, and your spine's like this. And if you do this, if you allow your spine to arch back too much in the throwing action, it can aggravate your lower back. So it's a little bit more than just quads, but the quads are a part of it. It's about the strength of your ability to control the shape of your midsection. And the other possibility is it's non-progressive increase. So if you went out one day and you safely should have done 25 repeats, but you did 75 repeats, you're already gone. Because the next day you'll add, you'll add, you'll add. You with me? It's important when you go out at the start of the season and do less than you think you can do, and then progressively add from there. But I suspect that your abdominal strength isn't real good, and you're probably a little bit tight around the quads too. So how did you go on the abdominal exercise we did before? Was it good or bad?
I think it was good.
Okay, good. So the bottom line is most people are getting exposed to a training load that is too much for your bodies to tolerate. You get hurt, you get pain, you ignore the pain, you keep going. The coach tells you to suck it up, man up, all those sort of bullshit terms that coaches love, and then you get hurt, you quit. Some muscle soreness is going to happen, but you shouldn't be hurting like that on a regular basis. So something's not right, is it? And if you ignore the message of the body, you are going to need a physical therapist who probably won't be able to fix you anyway. And then you'll go to the orthopedic surgeon and he'll fix you for a while, take your money, go to the Bahamas for his holidays, and then 5 years later you'll need another surgery to fix the surgery the first time that didn't work. If you think I'm being unrealistic, I am not. So don't ignore the message of the body. If something's not right, find out the solution. And being here is part of that. You're already learning more than you did before, aren't you? So what I'm shocking you with is telling you, in my opinion, that some of the things that you're led to believe aren't really the best way to go about it. But if you're a conformist and you think being like everyone else is more important, you're going to say that Ian King's full of shit and I'm going to ignore him, well, that's fine. But if you're a person who's got the courage to believe in your own convictions and form your own opinion, then you might think, hey, I might investigate some of this stuff a bit further. Because most of the stuff I do is not being done by other people. But the athletes are really happy that I work with it. Everyone else is throwing stones at me because I'm a bit different than them. It's much easier to be like everybody else. But you don't operate in the 1% of your sport by being like everybody else, I can assure you. I think we're nearly exhausted on our questions. I know John's exhausted. When he goes 2 minutes longer than he needs to get his extra 50 grams of protein, he gets really cranky. He gets really cranky. Okay, appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Been a great huddle. Appreciate the questions you've asked. Look forward to, one day you say, I'll be able to say when I see your name up there in the majors, I'll be able to say, oh, I know that kid. Not funny? Okay, just a thought. Great, appreciate you being here. Go home.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great to have you here. Appreciate it.